This is Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1719, 3 Steps to Conquering People Problems, Part 1, by Seth Sinclair of Mehlberg.com. Hello, everybody, and thanks so much for joining me, Greg Audino, for another episode of Optimal Relationships Daily. Now, today we will be starting a longer post, breaking it up between today's and tomorrow's episodes. Confidence doesn't always equal a job well done, and we will never run short of people problems. So listen close as we dive into part 1 of how to conquer people problems and start optimizing your life. 3 Steps to Conquering People Problems, Part 1, by Seth Sinclair of Mehlberg.com. Sometimes they sneak up on us. Other times we put off dealing with them and they loom in the background. You might make it a week or two without encountering one, but no one can avoid them for long. They can cause anger, anxiety, frustration, and leave your stomach in knots. I'm not talking about the spiders in your garage or the overdue bills on your desk. I'm talking about uncomfortable and potentially messy people problems. Conflict is inevitable. You know them well. You're bound to encounter them because as humans, we know that disagreement, differing perspectives, conflict, and issues are inevitable. Here are just a few fun examples that you might relate to. You need to tell your mother that you don't want to go to her house this year for Thanksgiving dinner, even though you always have before. You're watching your boss make a potentially catastrophic decision in front of a customer, and you need to speak up. You're trying to share your concerns with a friend about some self-destructive behaviors that you've observed. You're in an argument with your neighbor over their dog, and how it's always relieving itself in your yard. For many people, thinking about dealing with these types of issues results in breaking out into a cold sweat. What is it that makes them so difficult? Why do they cause so much dread and anxiety? Why do they often spiral out of control? According to the best-selling book Crucial Conversations by Carrie Patterson, Joseph Grenny, Ron McMillan, and Al Switzler, these potentially cringeworthy scenarios often emerge when 3 factors are in play. There is a difference of opinion, something important is at stake, and emotions are strong. And when confronted with these situations, which often unfold within what the authors call a crucial conversation, many people will do one of 2 things. They 1, run, hide, and avoid them, or 2, jump right in and handle them terribly. Has your amygdala been hijacked? There is a simple reason why some of us tuck tail and run, while others charge like a bull in response to a tough people problem or conversation. Daniel Goleman describes it using the term amygdala hijack. The amygdala is the emotional part of the brain which regulates the fight or flight response. When we perceive an issue or disagreement as a threat, which many of our brains are prone to do, a strong emotional reaction wells up. In other words, we react like we are being attacked. The thinking part of our brain turns down, and the feeling part of the brain takes over. This reaction is designed as a survival mechanism to keep us alive if, for instance, a wild tiger walks up to you in the street. That is great for surviving a random tiger attack. It is not very helpful when you're trying to work through an issue with another person. The bottom line is this: either running or fighting can have disastrous results when we are dealing with people problems. That's because our ability to resolve these issues through meaningful conversations is critical to our happiness, success, relationships, and well-being. This raises an important question. How can we improve our ability to handle these types of issues? How can we find solutions to people problems through conversation, even as opinions diverge and emotions rev up? 3 strategies to mastering difficult conversations. While developing the skills to truly master these conversations can take a lot of time and practice, here are 3 basic strategies you can start using right away to get better results. Avoid getting caught off guard, learn to pay attention to yourself, and seek to bring out the best in the other person. One key note before you jump in. For these strategies to work, we assume that you have some shared interest with the other person, that there is some reason for you to care about their perspective and to have empathy for them. E.g., you'd like for your mother to not disown you over your decision on Thanksgiving dinner. Or, if you don't care very much for the other person, you at least have some other big picture motivation for resolving the problem in a civil and fair way. E.g., you don't have to be best friends with your neighbor after the dog conversation, but you'd rather not be in an all-out war with him either. Author's note: In my coaching work, I often come across people that are not bothered at all by these types of people issues. They'll even say they look forward to taking on difficult conversations. They'll say they aren't afraid to tell the truth like other people. That's awesome. But sometimes a little red flag goes up when I hear these same people say, I have no issues at all telling someone like it is. The question for these folks is, are you getting good results? In other words, when you happily told someone off, did you achieve the outcome you were seeking? Or did you drive the other person away and create a bigger problem? If you think you might be in this bucket, don't blow off the rest of this article. The same techniques that work for someone who is nervous about these types of conversations will also work for you. Step 1. Avoid getting caught off guard and set a plan. The first step in handling these problems and conversations well is to see them coming and catch them before they go wrong. This means being conscious of people problems as they arise and watching for an early amygdala hijack. For example, if a sticky situation starts brewing, we can quickly build up a lot of anxiety and anger, even before we have all of the facts or a chance to reflect on what's happening. We unconsciously start to build assumptions about why the other person is wrong, why they're a jerk, why we are right, and why we feel we should win this issue. Here's an example of a scenario where this might happen. You and your boss are in the middle of a challenging project where there has been some tension and disagreement. At the end of a long day, he pokes his head into your office and says, "We need to talk," with a hint of frustration in his voice, and leaves with no additional explanation. It's easy to see how this situation can spiral out of control, especially if we miss the opportunity to diagnose it as an emerging people problem. Our first thought might be, "What was that all about?" Followed by, "He's so rude," which then escalates into, "He doesn't even care about my work. He's totally unfair, and he doesn't listen to what I say." Within moments, we feel hurt or we become furious. How might we react in this mindset? Sneak out the back door and blow him off? Or march into his office and blurt out, "What do you want?" In either case, this situation is now likely to devolve into something ugly. That's unfortunate. It distracts from the real matter at hand, which is finishing the project while preserving your reputation and relationships at work. To be continued. You just listened to part 1 of the post titled 3 Steps to Conquering People Problems by Seth Sinclair of Mehlberg.com. And this article is off to a great start. Thanks to Seth for that. Really excited to hear the rest that's in store tomorrow. But before we get into that, keep in mind that the goals you set for yourself as you seek to conquer problems with others can be developed through problems that you want to improve upon within yourself. So we have and will hear a lot about how to interact with others in this article. But aside from considering these problems on a situation-to-situation basis, consider what they mean for you as an individual. You might be more motivated if you look at it from the perspective of, I want to work on my ability to be present. I want to work on my ability to manage my anger. I want to work on my ability to not jump to conclusions too quickly, etc. If these are goals of yours that you are constantly chipping away at and mindful of, then difficult conversations with other people are likely to first be seen as opportunities to improve the relationship you have with yourself. And if we're at a point in life in which we are really in need of some healing in that way, it can be the exact motivation we need to help us interact with others, regardless of how much we care about them outside of the situation or people problem at hand. So think about that, everyone. I will leave you to it as we wrap up today and look towards the continuation of this post for tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you then, where your optimal life awaits.